That old camera's junk, Dad. Nobody uses film anymore. My son-in-law's voice carried across the entire gallery, loud enough that the catering staff stopped moving. My daughter didn't say a word. She just looked at her shoes. I was holding the camera with both hands. It was the last thing my wife had touched before she went into the hospital for the final time. 41 years we were married. She shot 3 rolls of film the week before her diagnosis. Said she wanted to document the autumn colors along the Rideau River one last time. She never got to develop them. My son-in-law, let's call him what he was, a man who'd never once asked about my wife in 4 years of knowing her, reached over and took the camera right out of my hands. Just lifted it away like it was a piece of garbage he was clearing off a table. "I'm donating this stuff this weekend," he said. "The whole box. We need the space." My daughter finally looked up. Dad brought it for Lily, actually. Lily is 5. She doesn't need a broken film camera. He set it down on the gift table among the wrapped boxes and tissue paper. There were 60 people in that gallery. A rented space in Westboro for my granddaughter's birthday party. Exposed brick walls, Edison bulbs, a balloon arch the color of cotton candy. My son-in-law's family on one side of the room. All of them, all at once, turning away from what had just happened and going back to their conversations. I didn't say anything. Anger wasted in public is anger that never lands where it should. My wife taught me that. I walked over, picked the camera up, and held it against my chest the way you hold something you're not going to put down again. My son-in-law caught my eye across the room. He raised his eyebrows. That expression, barely contained impatience, was the same one he'd used when I asked a second time about Lily's school schedule, the same one he'd used when I stayed past 9 o'clock at Christmas. The expression of a man who had decided I was a problem to be managed. I left the party 20 minutes later. Said I had a headache. My granddaughter hugged my legs at the door. Her father was already talking to someone else. I drove home to Conata in the dark, the camera on the passenger seat. My wife's camera, 3 rolls of undeveloped film still inside it, still waiting. My wife passed away 14 months before that party. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, fast and ungenerous. She was 63. We had plans. A trip to Newfoundland. A vegetable garden she'd been designing on graph paper for 2 winters. She had a notebook full of photographs she wanted to take. The camera was a Nikon F3. She'd bought it herself in 1987, with 3 weeks of nursing pay. Shot everything with it. Our daughter's first steps, our camping trips along the Bruce Peninsula, our 25th anniversary in Quebec City where it rained for 4 days, and she photographed every puddle. When she went into palliative care, I had the camera on my nightstand. She asked me once, in her last week, if I'd found anyone to develop the film. I told her I would. I hadn't yet. But I would. My son-in-law's name is Owen. He works in commercial real estate in Ottawa, which means he spends most of his life calculating what things are worth, and almost no time thinking about what they mean. My daughter met him at a fundraiser 9 years ago. She was 31, still doing her residency. He wore a good suit and had a specific kind of confidence that looks like solidity until you've known someone long enough to see it's actually just an absence of doubt. He was never unkind to me directly. That's the thing about men like Owen. The unkindness comes sideways, the redirected conversations, the decisions made before you arrived. The way he'd correct my daughter when she made plans with me. Not with anger, but with that quiet authority that makes disagreement feel exhausting. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat at my kitchen table in Canada with the camera in front of me and my wife's reading glasses on the shelf behind it. And I thought about the last week she was lucid. She'd asked me to make sure Lily knew her, not as a photograph, not as a story. As a real person, she was terrified of becoming abstract. I told her I'd make sure. I'd meant it then. That night, I meant it more. The next morning, I drove to a camera shop on Bank Street. My wife had bought supplies there for decades. The owner, a Portuguese man named Augusto, who'd been in the business for 30 years, recognized me from her visits. He took the camera carefully, turned it over in his hands the way someone handles a book they respect. "Film's still in there," he said. 3 rolls. She shot them in the October before she got sick. He set it on his workbench and pulled his magnifying glasses down from his forehead. He was quiet for a long time. He turned the camera, examined the back latch, checked something near the base. "There's something attached to the base plate," he said. "A secondary compartment. Very clean work. Not factory." He handed me a small jeweler's loupe. I looked. Between the camera body and the base, someone, my wife, had added a fitted panny, slim as a hardcover spine, secured with 2 Phillips screws. "Did she ever have custom work done?" Augusto asked. "She knew a man, retired machinist, fixed her enlarger twice." "This is his kind of work," Augusto said quietly. "Whoever did this knew what they were doing." He reached for a screwdriver. I put my hand on his arm. "I'll do it at home," I said. "But develop the film first, please." I came back 3 days later. The photographs were extraordinary. 47 exposures across 3 rolls, all shot in the 2 weeks before her first appointment with the oncologist. The Rado River in flat October light. A great blue heron standing in the shallows off Hog's Back. Our backyard oak tree, the one we'd planted as a sapling the year our daughter was born. And Lily, asleep in the back seat of my car, her mouth slightly open, a stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. My wife had titled each series on the paper sleeves in her handwriting. The last one just said, "For later." I brought the photographs home and sat with them at the kitchen table for 2 hours. Then I opened the base compartment. Inside, wrapped in archival tissue and sealed in a slim plastic sleeve, were 4 documents and a handwritten letter. The documents were savings certificates, not the old paper kind, printed confirmations from an online government bond account, each one in Lily's name, beneficiary designation complete and notarized. My wife had been buying them quietly for 11 years. Every birthday, every Christmas. Money she'd put aside from her nursing shifts before she retired. Small amounts. Consistent. The total, with interest accrued to date, was $412,000. My hands were shaking by the time I read the letter. "My darling, I opened this account the year Lily was born because I could already see what Owen was. He loves our daughter in the way some men love things, as long as they stay where he put them. He will not change, but Lily will grow up, and she'll need something that belongs to her alone, something he cannot reach. These bonds are registered in Lily's name, not yours, not mine. He cannot touch them, but I need you to make sure she knows about them when she's old enough, and I need you to make sure Owen never controls that money. I didn't tell you because I needed you to be surprised, truly surprised, if Owen ever tried to keep you away from Lily. Your face has to be honest. If he's treating you well, give her the letter and let it be a gift. If he's not, you'll know what to do. The photographs on the film are for you. The documents are for her. Everything else I leave to your judgment. I love you. Keep showing up." I read it 4 times. My wife had been 11 years ahead of me. While I was still learning what Owen was, she'd already built the wall. I made tea. Earl Grey, the same way she'd taught me. The kettle was loud in the empty kitchen. Then I called my daughter. She didn't answer. She rarely answered on the first try anymore. I left a message saying I'd found some of her mother's things and would like to sit down with her this week. I kept my voice easy. I said nothing about the documents. 3 days later, she called back. She sounded tired in the particular way she'd sounded tired since Lily was born. Not sleep-deprived, but something hollower than that. She said she could come Thursday. Owen had Lily at swimming lessons. We'd have an hour. She sat at my kitchen table with both hands around a mug she wasn't drinking from. She'd lost weight since her mother died. Her hair was different. She looked like someone still waiting for life to resume. "I found some financial documents in your mother's camera," I said. She'd been saving for Lily, quietly, for a long time. My daughter looked at me. "How much?" "More than $400,000. The mug shifted in her hands. "Owen doesn't know. Your mother was very careful that he wouldn't." She was quiet for a long time. Outside, the snow had started, the real kind, not the tentative early stuff. Full November snow, that means business. She knew, my daughter said finally. It wasn't a question. She knew. My daughter pressed her lips together. Whatever she was feeling, she pulled it back down. She'd gotten good at that. What happens now? That depends on whether you think Owen needs to know before Lily does. She looked at me with her mother's eyes. They were the same shade of green, a thing Owen had mentioned once and then never again. He'll want to control it. I know. He'll say it should go into a joint account for family expenses. For the house. He's already talking about a second property in Gatineau. The bonds are in Lily's name. He has no legal claim. But he'll push. My daughter wrapped both arms around herself. She was 39 years old, and she looked like she used to look at 17 when something was wrong, and she didn't know how to say so. Mom did this so I wouldn't have to fight him about money, she said slowly. She did this so I'd have something in my corner. She did this so Lily would. The call from Owen came 12 days later. Not a text, a call. He rarely called me directly. When he did, it was always because something needed to be managed. I understand you've been going through Vivian's things, he said. He used my wife's name like a word in a legal brief. I have, and you found some financial documents. My daughter had told him. I'd expected it. She was still living with him, still navigating. I found a savings account your wife, your mother-in-law, opened for Lily before she died, I said. It's in Lily's name. Government bonds. I'm Lily's father. Anything in her name comes under my oversight as her guardian. She's the beneficiary, Owen. The accounts are hers at 18. There's no oversight provision. He was quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that means recalculating. I'll need to have our financial advisor look at this. And the assets associated with a minor in Ontario can be subject to parental management. I'd like to have a conversation about consolidating. No. That was all I said. Just no. Another silence. Longer this time. I beg your pardon? Those accounts stay exactly as Vivian structured them. They're not available for consolidation. They're not available for consolidation. They're not available for parental management. They're Lily's at 18. I'm not sure you understand how family finance works. I'm sure I do, I said, and I'm sure you'll want to speak to a lawyer before you make any formal moves because I already have. I hadn't yet, but I would by morning. I called Patricia Williams. Not the same Patricia, a different woman, but with the same quality of attention. She came recommended by Augusto, who'd apparently sent half the neighborhood to her over the years. She practiced family and estate law out of a small office on Elgin Street, the kind of office with too many files and not enough shelving and a coffee maker that sounded like it had lived a full life. She read the documents while I sat across from her. Government of Canada bonds for spot designation, Lily identified as sole beneficiary, she said, notarized, witnessed. Your wife knew what she was doing. She was a nurse for 35 years. She understood systems. Owen Sullivan has no legal claim to these funds. None. His only play would be to challenge the beneficiary designation on grounds of your wife's mental capacity at the time of signing, which, she looked at the dates, would be 11 years ago. So good luck to him. Or he could try to argue, you're mismanaging Lily's interests as the administrator of Vivian's estate. But these accounts are self-administering. They don't touch the estate. He mentioned parental oversight of minors' assets. Patricia set the documents down. He's not wrong that parents can manage assets on behalf of a minor, but that applies to assets without a designated beneficiary structure. These have one, Lily's. It holds. She looked at me directly. Has he done anything yet? Formal? Not yet. He's the type who wants the other person to blink first. Don't blink, she said, and document everything from here forward. The formal letter came 8 days later. Owen's lawyer, a corporate firm in the Glebe, the kind that does commercial litigation and occasionally strays into family law when a client insists, sent a 3-page letter asserting Owen's right to administer Lily's financial assets as her parent and guardian. requesting a full accounting of the bonds and suggesting that my continued involvement in Lily's financial affairs was causing confusion and distress within the family unit. Confusion and distress, that was the language they'd chosen. I scanned the letter and sent it to Patricia. She called me back in 40 minutes. "He's fishing. This letter isn't a filing. It's a pressure campaign. He wants you to hand over the documentation to avoid a fight. He's underestimated how much I like a fight when I'm right." "Good," she said, "because there's something else." Owen's firm, his commercial real estate company, filed for creditor protection in Ontario Superior Court 6 weeks ago. He's carrying roughly $2 million in deferred debt from a failed development in Barrhaven. He is not in a position of financial strength right now. That's why he wants the bonds. $2 million. My daughter was living in that house. Lily was living in that house. And Owen had been carrying $2 million in debt without telling either of them. Does my daughter know? Patricia paused. Not my area, but if Owen's filing is public record, it can be found. I printed the filing that evening. Sat with it at the kitchen table under the kitchen light. My wife's photograph, the heron in the river, was pinned to the corkboard above the stove. She'd always put things above the stove because she said it was where she spent the most time. I looked at the heron for a long time. Then I called my daughter. She answered on the second ring this time. I heard the television in the background, then silence when she moved to another room. "Your husband's company filed for creditor protection 6 weeks ago," I said. "He's carrying $2 million in business debt. I found it through public court records." Long silence. "He told me the Barrhaven project was delayed," she said. "It failed. The filing's public. Patricia can send you the documents." Another silence. Different in quality from the first one. "He wanted Lily's bonds to cover the debt," she said slowly. "That's my read. He told me those bonds were probably not properly structured and might create a tax complication. He said we should simplify things. He lied to you." She didn't answer. I heard her breathing. "He's been lying to me for a while," she said finally. Her voice had changed. Something in it was very still, the way a lake goes still before a storm moves through. "I know, sweetheart. Mom knew. She always did. My daughter met with a family lawyer the following week. I referred her to a colleague of Patricia's who specialized in matrimonial property. She didn't tell Owen she was going. She told him she had hospital rounds. What she found out in that meeting changed the next 6 months of her life. Owen had refinanced their home twice in 2 years without fully disclosing the extent of the liabilities to her. The matrimonial home in Canada had equity, but less than she'd thought. His corporate structure was designed to keep personal and business debt appearing separate, but the personal guarantees he'd signed on the development loans had been pulling at their household finances for 3 years. She hadn't known. He'd managed the optics of their financial life the same way he managed the optics of everything, carefully, selectively, and with supreme confidence that she would trust his version. She filed for separation in February. Owen's lawyer sent a second letter, this time CC'd to Patricia, demanding that the bond documentation be produced in the context of family property disclosure under the Ontario Family Law Act. Patricia replied within 48 hours with a 3-paragraph explanation of why government bonds held in a minor child's name as a registered beneficiary did not constitute family property under any reasonable interpretation of the Act, and suggesting that Owen's counsel revisit their analysis before filing anything that would waste the court's time. They did not file. The mediation took 4 months. Owen spent the first 2 sessions being the version of himself he presented to clients, reasonable, measured, capable. By the 3rd session, when it became clear that my daughter was not going to be managed, he became a different version. Not violent, just relentless, the way water is relentless, wearing at every edge. My daughter held. She'd grown up watching her mother hold. The settlement gave her the matrimonial home, primary custody of Lily, and a child support arrangement. Owen retained his business interests, which at that point were worth considerably less than they'd been before the Barrhaven filing. He moved to a condo in Centretown. He had Lily every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. Lily asked me once, in the weeks after her parents separated, if it was her fault. We were in my backyard in Kanata, late April. The oak tree was just starting. She was sitting on the old garden bench my wife had repainted 3 summers in a row because she could never quite get the color right. I sat down beside her. "No," I said, "not even a little bit. Daddy seemed really angry." "He's sad," I said. "Adults get angry when they're sad sometimes. It doesn't mean anything you did." She thought about that for a moment. She was 5, nearly 6. She had her mother's way of considering things carefully before speaking. "Grandma's camera," she said. "Were those her pictures in it?" "Yes. She took them before she got sick. Pictures of the river, and one of you, asleep in my car." Lily looked at the oak tree. "Can I see it?" "Of course." We went inside and I spread the photographs on the kitchen table. Lily stood on her tiptoes to look at each one. She touched the edge of the one where she was sleeping, very gently, the way you touch something you don't want to change. "She was thinking about me," Lily said. "Every day," I said, "right up until the end." My daughter enrolled Lily in therapy that spring, a child psychologist in Nepean who specialized in family transitions. I drove Lily to appointments when my daughter had shifts. We'd stop at the Dairy Queen on Marival after, a thing that became our tradition before I even noticed it was one. The psychologist told my daughter that Lily was processing well, that she had strong attachment relationships, that the consistency of grandparent involvement was a protective factor. I didn't know what a protective factor was precisely, but I understood what it meant to show up. Owen's second letter, the one from his personal email, not his lawyer's, arrived 6 months after the separation was finalized. He sent it to me directly, not to my daughter. 4 paragraphs, more careful than I expected. Less angry. He wrote that he understood he'd made decisions that hurt people. That he'd been under pressure he hadn't shared. That he knew he'd handled the bonds badly. That he'd seen an asset and thought of it as a solution rather than asking whose it was. He didn't excuse it, he just named it. He asked if there was ever going to be a point at which I'd allow him a conversation without lawyers present. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Patricia and asked her to keep a copy. I didn't reply yet. Trust isn't rebuilt in one email from a man who spent 3 years in a slow-motion lie. But I left the door open a crack, for Lily's sake. The bonds matured on schedule. Lily would have access at 18. Patricia set me a reminder every year, just to keep it documented. What I did in the meantime was simpler than any of the legal work. Every Saturday when Lily was with me, I told her about her grandmother. Not the illness, not the end, the person. The way she'd hum while she cooked, the photographs. The fact that she'd once driven 4 hours to Algonquin in November because she wanted to see the lake before freeze-up, and then nearly got stuck on the highway on the way back and laughed the entire time. I told Lily that her grandmother had believed that money was a tool, not a destination. That the best thing you could do with any resource was use it to make someone's life more free. I told her about the camera compartment. Not yet everything inside it, but enough. That her grandmother had planned ahead because she loved her. That love sometimes looks like paperwork. That the person who's gone is still present in every decision they made while they were here. Lily listened the way children listen when something matters. Very still, head slightly tilted. "She was thinking about me even then," Lily said one Saturday. We were in the kitchen. I was making the scrambled eggs and she was in charge of the toast, a responsibility she took very seriously. "Every single day," I said. Lily watched the toast. "I'm going to think about people like that when I grow up," she said. "Way ahead." Something shifted in my chest. The same thing that shifts when you recognize someone. I put the eggs on the plate. The toast came up perfectly. We sat at the same kitchen table where I'd opened the base compartment, where I'd read the letter the first time, where I'd sat the night of the party with the camera in front of me, and the weight of a promise I'd made to a woman who trusted me to keep it. Outside, the oak tree was full and green. My wife's photograph, the heron on the rideau, standing in still water, patient as anything, was still above the stove. I'd kept every promise. The film developed, The documents protected, Lily known, the money safe, the door open enough for whatever came next. That's the legacy my wife left me, not the $400,000. That belongs to Lily. The legacy was the instruction. Keep showing up. Make the decisions that protect the people who can't protect themselves yet. Don't let money speak louder than love. Some mornings, I still set 2 mugs out of habit. I notice, and I don't move the second one right away. Lily asked me once why I did that. I told her because it reminds me someone was here. And that's not sad. That's the whole point. The people we love don't disappear when they leave. They leave instructions. They leave photographs in undeveloped film. They leave government bonds in the base of a camera in a secret compartment built by a man who understood that sometimes the most important things need to be hidden until the right moment. They leave us ways to protect the ones who come after. That's enough. That's more than enough.